We are now joined by Lieutenant Colonel Sarit Zehavi. She is the CEO and founder of Alma Research and Education Centers. It specializes in Israel's security challenges on the northern border. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You know, we see a map, but seeing a map of Lebanon and Syria and Israel doesn't come near the impact so many people have told me of what you show them when groups go to Israel. What is it that you show them that they can't stop talking about when they come home?
I think that the main issue is really proximities. The fact that they stand on the border, they stand inside an Israeli community, and they are watching only a few feet away a community on the Lebanese side of the border. They can see Nasrallah's posters, they can see Hezbollah's flags, they can see the tunnels, and they are really shocked about the fact that everything is so close and everything is so small.
And last time you were on the main stage, I remember you said something like, you know, there were only 20 rocket attacks in 10 years or something. We consider that pretty good, and which is staggering, because if you're living with your family somewhere and that happens, you would say that's very frightening. Do you get used to it?
Well, you don't get used to this. You just live your life, and in the everyday life we feel safe. We don't feel that something is going on. Whenever there is tension, it became problematic. And I'll tell you a small story. The last incident on the border was on September 1st this year, and it was 5 days before my son's bar mitzvah, the same boy that was born at the last day of the war. And that afternoon, when Hezbollah launched anti-tank missiles to the border, to an area which is very close to where I live, about half an hour drive from where I live, I was not sure that in 5 days I will be able to celebrate the bar mitzvah. So this brought a lot of tension. But other than that, eventually when you understand that everything becomes calm again, we feel safe in the everyday life.
And you still feel lucky to be in Israel and part of Israel. So you left the Army in 2014 and started the Alma Institute. What were you hoping, and what are you hoping to achieve with the Alma Institute?
The idea of Alma is to make the knowledge about Israel's security challenges on the northern border accessible to everybody. I feel that this is a story that is not being told, or is not being told enough in media outside of Israel. People, when they think about the security of Israel, they mainly think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we want to tell a different story about Hezbollah, about Iran, about radical Islam. That's one thing. And the other thing is that we learned that people that are coming from outside of Israel don't know that actually inside Israel, Jews and Arabs live together. So in the Galilee where I live, we are a model not only for Israel, but for all over the Middle East, where Jews, Druze, Shiite and Sunnis live, not Shiites, very little Shiites, but live together. Christians and Sunnis live together in peace, and we have very good relationship. I feel safe to go and eat pizza in the nearby Arab village at midnight with my boy. And I think these are messages that people that are not coming to Israel are usually not exposed to.
I've actually heard that before from people who have visited Israel quite a bit, saying that you see so many common people getting along, people who just live day-to-day lives. It's the politics that get in the way.
Right.
Right. So you often take visitors to the border, but one of the things we've been hearing about, especially we heard with from the IDF spokesperson yesterday about the terror tunnels, which is something many people have lost their breath over, have told us that when they have gone, a special group that went a second time to dive deep into security issues, that it truly takes your breath away. So tell me about those terror tunnels.
About the tunnels?
The tunnels. I mean, it's in your backyard. It was.
It's 20 minutes from home. Look, the tunnels, for me, the moment I entered the tunnel, I felt that the hate is as deep as the tunnel, because it was unbelievable to see how much money and time Hezbollah invested in excavating in such a rocky soil, which is completely different from Gaza, for example.
Solid rock. Well, you could see in the video that we saw, it is, you could look at the video right now, it is solid rock. So
solid rock, and they only used a small driller made of iron that, just created the waste, and again and again and again took out the waste, building trails inside the tunnels to evacuate the waste. The stairs that you see in the photos are original stairs that were built by Hezbollah. All the wires and the pipes that you see there were put by Hezbollah, electricity, phone lines, air conditioning.
22 stories.
22 stories. It's really, and I'm saying this as somebody who researched Hezbollah for more than a decade now, it's really an unbelievable project.
In terms of scale and in terms of hatred, in terms of both?
The hatred is something that is rooted by the civilian project of Hezbollah. So all these tunnels and rockets that you've shown in the maps before Hezbollah would not be able to do that, would not be able to use the population in South Lebanon as human shield without the civilian project, the indoctrination project of hate, by the way, not only hate for Israel, but also hate to the United States. And all of that is being done by involvement in the everyday life of the people there, in every aspect of life, whether it's medical services, welfare services, educational services, everywhere these messages are being delivered.
Okay, the other aspect, that's something that a lot of people have not heard about, is that you take visitors into a room where you do a very special simulation. What is that?
Well, we've built Alma Center only about half an hour drive from the border, nearby where I live. And we created a situation room with a lot of screens on the wall. I was inspired by the way it is being handled in the army. And we wanted to bring people into the experience of how it is to be Israelis. So the people that are participating in the simulation become in the Israeli cabinet. They are divided into groups like foreign ministry, prime minister's office, etc. And now they are the ones who have to make decisions.
So they're
about
presented
Israel
with a true life situation.
Yes.
And they have to make a snap decision based on what they know.
I'll tell you a small secret. One of the scenarios that we considered when we built the simulation was a scenario of assassination against Soleimani. And eventually it happened in reality.
Because the group that I talked to said that it was, their hearts were beating out of their chests because it was so real. And in the end, they fired. Because it was such a snap decision, but based on what they knew. And they felt like if this had been a real situation, there would have been casualties or whatever, and they were responsible for making that decision.
The whole idea is not to make them decide for attack, but to make them understand the complexity.
Right.
That's the idea, to make them understand that they need to consider so many players before they make any decision, and how difficult the decision is.
And actually, that's what they came away with, the complexity, because they realized it wasn't a video game, that these things happen and some really tough decisions get made.
Every day, including yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, by the way, in Israel, I don't know if you know, there was a preemptive attack of the IDF on the Syrian border against terrorists that were on their way to carry out snipers' attack against Israel with helicopters.
Frightening. And thank goodness you're bringing all this attention to what is happening in northern Israel. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.